Seems fair to me.
Yes, he did.
If you don't know what fair is, you can't make it look
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Thank you so much for joining us for this, what's going to be a spectacular Donnybrook, just a couple of days away from Halloween, which is now apparently the only day on the calendar where it's no longer controversial to wear a mask. Jenny Wendt, recycling guru, joins us for the second half. That's going to be exciting with Ray and Alvin at about 7:30. But first, let's meet the panelists who are joining us for this edition, starting with Christine Byers from 5 on Your Side, KSDK, sitting in for Wendy Weiss. Hello, Christine.
Hi, Charlie.
From the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Mr. Joe Holleman, sitting in for Bill McClellan, who's taken the week off. From rawstory.com, the Riverfront Times, the Big 550, KTRS, Ray Hartmann, one of our founders. And from the St. Louis American, there he is, Mr. Alvin Reid. He's the sports editor and sports columnist and news editor there. Well, speaking of sports, what a week at the Intercontinental Barclays Hotel in Manhattan, where, Christine, Tuesday, NFL owners were meeting. And it was crazy. It was a Donnybrook because I guess Jerry Jones and Stan Kroenke were arguing with some of the other owners who had assembled there for this NFL meeting. But I guess the sum and substance is that Mr. Kroenke, believe it or not, doesn't want to pay what he apparently owes. In other words, he had promised when he moved the Rams from St. Louis to LA to indemnify the league regarding legal costs, maybe a judgment. Now, apparently, according to published reports, he doesn't want to do that. And there are some speculating that this is really good for St. Louis, which has this lawsuit against the NFL. This consternation within the ownership group seems to indicate the owners are not feeling very confident that they're going to prevail, and that might mean we could get $1 billion or an expansion franchise. What do you think is going on here?
Well, I think it's very interesting, the fact that how this news, came about. I mean, clearly the NFL owners came out and sought out their favorite reporters and their trusted reporters to get this information out there in the public. And so it was quite a shot across the bow here toward the Kroenke camp from, I mean, he's lost St. Louis and now he's lost the room for the NFL owners.
Yeah, and I would say the ESPN story was amazing. It read like a transcript of the meeting, not even minutes. and to borrow from one of the commenters, when are we going to end this billionaire on billionaire violence? I mean, it's just so like unbelievable. I have to say, because obviously I was predicted the Rams to leave and all that and stuff. I think anybody that's trying to predict what's going to happen is just taking a wild guess. It's a free-for-all. You just don't see stuff like this with all these billionaires, and I still think it's unlikely, and I don't think people should get their hopes up about an expansion franchise. But at this point, I have to say, all bets are off.
I just kind of feel like, okay, even 1 billion with a B, whether you had to put a 2 in front of it, I'd be thinking like, hey, we might want to like get this while the getting is good while everybody's mad. And they might be telling him right now, give those people $2 billion so this goes away. Because I'm not coming to St. Louis to testify, and I'm not giving them my personal fortune records. But like Ray was saying, somebody came out that room, or you, Christine, somebody came out of that room and dropped a dime. I mean, they walked out and said like, oh yeah, we will see Mr. Kroenke.
Well, what it sounded like was a clerk at a city council who said, and then Wilson from Buffalo said, and then Mark Davis from Oakland, and it just went down. And
no one refuted anything.
Yeah, not one word was contested.
Anything.
And usually you can't get these guys to say anything. And I don't know where it's going to end. I agree with Ray. You don't know where it's going to end. But what I thought was great was, it's one thing for Kroenke to think he can out-weasel a city full of good and decent people. But to think you're going to go in with 31 other NFL owners and weasel your way out of legal fees, he's got another thing coming.
Okay, let's say the region prevails in this lawsuit. Do we think that the NFL would actually in lieu of dollars, give us an expansion team to a region that sued the NFL twice in the last 25 years?
Well, Al Davis sued him 9 ways to Sunday, and, you know, his son owns the team now. But, all right, here's the thing with the expansion team. Let's say St. Louis won, okay? And, you know, they're talking about whatever the damages are. The owners might just say, look, Stan Kroenke, first of all, we hate you now, as we didn't already. But two, I'm not paying, okay? So how do we not pay? So like, well, let's work out some deal, like 6 years from now, whatever. They get a team. And, you know, some of you won't be owners anymore. Some of you who are upset and don't want to sell your team and make $14 billion. But I could see where some of the owners would say, like, just give them a team. You know, like, I'm not coming off $6 billion. I'm not coming off whatever these legal fees are. I'm not doing it. So that works in St. Louis.
I hear you, but I don't think they want to set the precedent of trying to resolve problems by giving out franchise, because it's a very serious.
But this is unprecedented.
I understand it's unprecedented, but they're going to be thinking about, you know, Mexico. They're talking international stuff. And you have to remember, you say you don't want to give money out. Every time this is a cartel, if they go from 32 to 34, 36, they are giving money out. They are diluting their piece of the TV
they get theirs off the top,
and I don't think that will happen. And I have to say, I'm as big a sports fan as anyone, and I'd love it to see us have a team. But we might be like the dog that caught the car, because we probably don't have the as much as it may be unpopular to say it, we might not at this point have the corporate headquarters base to support 3 full franchises. And again, I'd love to see it sentimentally, but I don't know.
And we may not have a loop trolley, because today the East-West Gateway Council of Governments, or was it yesterday, voted not to give $1.26 million federal dollars to kind of resurrect the trolley, which has been in mothballs the past year or so. Never was really successful and popular. Do you think it's time to write the obituary for the loop trolley?
Well, you know, I think that, first of all, I don't disagree. I mean, they can't get any more tax dollars for the loop trolley. That's at any level. But no, I don't think it's necessary to write the obituary. Before the pandemic, the TDD, the taxing district, which is just sales tax dollars in the loop, so it doesn't affect anybody that isn't shopping there, and the merchants, obviously. It was getting about almost $900,000 a year. I don't know anything about the trolley, and there are some requirements from the federal government that they have to staff certain positions because it's transit, even though, you know, that whatever. But the answer is, as much as it's popular to beat up on it, Joe Edwards, say what you will, had all the best intentions. He's done an amazing things there. I think they have to work backwards from a $900,000 pie. In other words, unless they get private money or advertising dollars, they'd have to go backwards from that. It seems to me that if it was just, say, a weekend thing, that they ought to be able to work at that level. And I don't see why everybody's got to be snarky about it if that happens, because it's not hurting anybody else. No, it didn't do what it was intended to, but I don't think you have to bury it.
I just think and you know, I don't think anybody could say this when it first started, but I think it's just something fundamentally flawed, from financing to the tracks themselves to the nobody wants to ride it to this. I think there's just so many things that are against it that I just don't think it would work, even if it was going to just be on the weekends and be a fun thing that you could jump on. I just think that it was something that is there that quite frankly not enough people really cared about.
It's already proven to be a failure. I mean, there was hardly any ridership. So if it's not serving the purpose, why are we still throwing money at it?
I think working against it too is it's like a restaurant or a location where you just kind of get a label hung on you. And that's how people look at it. So in the beginning, the trolley, hey, good idea, maybe this could be great. And then it's like, I don't know about the trolley. Now it's the trolley, and everybody kind of chuckles. And that does not bode well for the future of it when you're looking at resurrecting something that people are basically looking at as already a failure, as Christine pointed out.
Joe, what were your opinions on Eric Schmitt, Missouri Attorney General, who went to the border, and there was some confusion as to who paid for that trip? He went there asking that a wall be erected to kind of stem the influx of immigrants who are coming here illegally. And as the Attorney General of Missouri. He's kind of an interesting person to be doing that. Maybe not the first person that you would think, but there's questions as to who should be paying for his trip. Turns out, I believe the campaign paid for his, and then he had some aides. The state paid for that. Well, overall, do you think he had a legitimate reason or purpose to go to the border in the first place?
I think you could concoct one. I think it was basically, by and large, a political stunt. And I have never criticized any politician of any party of playing politics. It's what they do. And if his campaign paid for it, I don't have a problem. As far as the $820 that it apparently cost to send his spokesperson with him, I believe Schmitt's campaign should write a check for $820, send it to the state, and let's be done with it. But the idea that somehow he violated some sacred public trust or just committed some high crimes and misdemeanor, I think it's gotten out of hand, and it's basically that people who don't want Eric Schmitt to be the next U.S. Senator are going to keep saying anything bad about Eric Schmitt that they can. So, Eric, write a check for $820. We all know what it was. It was a political maneuver. Great. That's what you do.
Boy.
Cut the check, and let's move on.
Those are the kind of reasonable words you will never see on Eric Schmidt's Twitter account. I mean, if this was some liberal that did this, Eric Schmitt, if you read, he's got like Trump Tourette's on his Twitter account. And as far as I'm concerned, Joe's right. I mean, we don't disagree about, of course, his campaign should pay for it. But, you know, I guess this is a dry run for when he's going to go to China to serve Xi with his lawsuit. I mean, to me, it's like, you know, yes, it's a complete, first of all, there is no valid Missouri-based reason for our Attorney General to be dealing with any border past like maybe Arkansas and Iowa. And the idea that he's wasting staff resources by an incredible amount on every one of these Trumpy things is a violation of his trust. And yet every minute he spent, we don't need him going to the border unless he's going to Arkansas.
Overall, I agree with you. I want more immigrants coming across the border to take some of the jobs that are open right now, so I'm not in favor of a wall for that. But, you know, I was listening to NPR a couple of weeks ago, and they talk about the opioid crisis, and it's off the charts this year in the United States. About 100,000 people are going to die from opioid overdoses, and a lot of that are drugs that are laced with fentanyl, according to NPR, from Mexico. So if he is prosecuting drug crimes in Missouri, I think he actually does have a legitimate reason to be concerned about the border. Whether the wall is the answer, I don't know. But I think that, yeah, the Attorney General from Missouri should be concerned about what's coming across.
I'm still taken back by the point that Ray apparently has read reasonable statements on Twitter from anybody.
Eric Schmitt is in a league
that
by
one took me by
himself.
surprise.
Eric Schmitt's in
And
a
I think,
league
as you
by
said,
himself.
you can concoct reasons to go down there.
Oh, God.
Just cut the check. But what I said before is Eric Schmitt, in going on about this, it's just that people don't want Eric Schmitt to be the Republican candidate for senator. So anybody who's pulling for the Democratic side is going after Eric
it on
Schmitt.
himself, because like you said, he
Absolutely
went down there
did.
for one reason.
Absolutely
so now you're fair
he
game. They're coming after you. Now that whole thing where like this is anytime Greitens goes off on that, it's crazy liberal stuff. The liberals did not cost him his job. The circuit attorney did not cost him his job. The Republicans in Jefferson City are ones who cost him his job. So I think they're at the bottom of this. They fed that information, and like I said,
of course,
that's where that's coming from. My deal is this, and this is the really part that makes me mad. Like some of them apparently had to stay at the La Quinta, and as a taxpayer, the Super 8, you know, didn't have a special going. Hey, come on.
Yeah, what about Drury Hotel, the Great St. Louis
Charlie,
Hotel?
Charlie, can I say one thing to what you said? There is a drug problem, mostly driven by demand in the United States. The drug problem, from whether it's from Mexico or Colombia or wherever it is 100. You can make a great case as there's a disaster at the border. No question about that. That particular crisis at the border has zero to do with the drug issue, which is going to be there whether there is or isn't.
Oh, I don't know, Ray. It's coming across.
These are not. It paints this Trumpian view.
What are you talking about?
Charlie,
what are you talking about?
It's like this Trumpian view that these refugees.
Explain to me why.
No, wait a minute.
Explain to me why the border isn't in a crisis.
Newsflash, Charles. Dope been coming to the country over the Mexican border and the Florida.
Well, it's not
forever for the last. As long as we've had
and
a
it isn't
country.
people.
But the situation's gotten worse.
I wouldn't even say that, Charlie.
It's not the
No,
kids
we're going to
from
have
Central
100,000
Missouri.
opioid deaths this year, according to NPR.
Charlie,
Do I need to repeat myself?
Because it's,
we're off
right,
the charts.
Because it's fentanyl and it's who's dying, but
right.
folks been dying from overdosing for
Thank you.
500 years.
Oh,
in
okay.
this country.
Charlie.
Alvin, let's
Right.
move to Alvin on the next topic.
And I'm not making light of that. I'm
Charlie,
just
no,
saying.
I know
just
you're not
one
making
thing,
light of it.
Charlie.
Hey,
They are
you
not
always say one thing and we get 30
drugs
things.
across these
Alvin,
children.
I want to talk about Sam Page, county executive, St. Louis County. He goes to a Blues game. He has been telling everybody, school children and businesses and you name it, to wear masks. And he's photographed sitting watching the game without a mask on. Now, we're told by his aides that he did wear a mask in the hallways. He went from the entrance to the luxury suite or the owner's suite with a mask on, but then he took it off so that he could, drink beer or something. But when you go on an airplane, you're supposed to put the mask on between sips. And you would think a leader, especially Sam Page, who's been telling everyone else to wear a mask, should be wearing a mask. What do you think?
Well, when I went to the symphony on last Friday, Beatles show was excellent. When I wasn't actually drinking my drink, I literally held it like next to my face like this. Now, I'm not, my scufflaw or whatever, but bad judgment by the county executive. He knows people are just laying in wait for him, and you just got to be a little bit more astute to what is going on around you.
I think an important thing to notice about any criticism of a public figure is how they react to that criticism. And in his statement, he doubled down on what he did. I mean, there's absolutely no recognition of what could possibly be wrong with this.
2 words, bad optics. I mean, really, maybe 3 words, really bad optics, or 4 words, really, really bad optics. But I mean, it was terrible optics. I happen to think he's right to have what is really a mask guidance. When you call it a mask mandate, which it never has been, then you're asking for trouble. I think it helps for all the nonsense out there. Masks do help fight this virus. They do. They may not be the cure. Vaccines are a better, more direct cure.
Amen.
But the fact is, they help. When you call them mandates, when they're really not mandates, to borrow a phrase somebody had earlier, you lose the root. You get people mad and everything else. It helps businesses if there's a nice guidance from the county saying you have to have a mask to enter their business. They can then ask people not to come in. And it helps give them cover to do so. No one's going to arrest people, but for him to be sitting in an owner's box.
Joe, let me go to you on another topic because we're running out of time here. Okay. And that would be, it was announced this past, or actually a story by Mark Schlinkman, that the city of St. Louis still has not sent out those $500 checks, which came with federal pandemic money. The mayor had insisted that the Board of Aldermen had to approve it in June, and the Board of Aldermen did it in July, which was just too late as far as the mayor was concerned, but now here we are almost November, and her office hasn't sent the checks out to the 10,000 neediest St. Louisans.
Yeah, big hurry, rush. Put a rush on this, and it's you got the sizzle part down. Now you have to deliver the actual steak. Getting a bill that promises people $500 pays nobody's electric bill, pays nobody's heating bills. So if it was so important that when aldermen were saying, slow down, no, we can't slow down, we can't slow down, anyone who attributes any bit of logic or proficiency to any administration figures, okay, you have a plan on how to get this out. Apparently they don't. So get the checks out. You promised, you needed them right away, hurry up.
I mean, yeah, from what I remember, what the aldermen were saying was that they had concerns about how is this money going to be administered, how are we going to make sure there's checks and balances in place so that it doesn't get abused and it goes to the people that actually need it. And there was this big rush to get this going.
Well, I think I will defend that action in that, especially if I was newly elected to some office, everything would be a rush. All right. If we don't get it done, it'll be the same old, we'll be talking about it for a year. I think when the people get their checks, I think it will have gotten to them quicker than if we went through this whole aldermanic and didn't rush. Now, has it been too long between July and now? Yes. But I just in my mind, I bet you it would be 2022 before they got their money.
The two are not related. I mean, there was a rush, and a lot of that's got to do with the legislative calendar, which does not exactly move efficiently in the city of St. Louis. And you can have both things. You could have the rush, but because of the bidding requirements and some of the other stuff, it takes, now I have to say, government at all levels is just maddening about how slow these programs work. And that I think is ridiculous, but I don't think that it proves that they shouldn't have rushed the legislative process, because I think they did need to expedite it. They might have been waiting months and months if they hadn't expedited. So let's see, like, at the end how this turns out.
Christine Byers, you have a segment tonight at 10 on Channel 5 that looks at the morgue a couple days before Halloween and unidentified bodies there.
Yeah, so what we found basically was that there are 7 unidentified remains at the city's morgue. And it's the most that there's ever been at one time there. So we kind of looked at what's being done to try to get them identified.
Looking forward to watching that. Meanwhile, the City of St. Louis's police department has announced that it's going to have these traffic stops now. Thank goodness for that. I've seen them all over. I appreciate that. They're enforcing speed. But Michelle Woodling, a spokesperson for the police department, said that they are not going to enforce the expiration of temporary tags or worry about people who are driving without insurance. What do you think?
So I think that the mission here is completely different. If the mission here is to crack down on speeding drivers and hazardous, moving violations, then that's completely separate than tag and license plate and tail light enforcement. And so, I mean, I would rather have the police officers going after those who are driving 100 miles an hour down the street than on the side of the road ticketing somebody for expired tags.
I'll agree to a certain extent. I think, though, there comes a point where somebody's respect for the law enough to operate a vehicle in a safe manner. If you're riding around without turn signals or brake lights that don't work, it shows kind of a disregard for traffic safety. And I think those people are probably going to take speeding just as well. If you're not going to obey that I need to have brake lights so that people don't run into me and I don't cause a wreck, I need to have turn signals. That's traffic safety. That's not administrative law. That's actually operating the motor vehicle. And I don't think people come in and go, oh, I'll operate a motor vehicle dangerously up to this point, but I'll go speed through this. I think that the idea of where you say we are not going to enforce these laws, it just gives people an attitude of, well, then how hard are they going to enforce these laws?
Well, no, but Joe, that's quite a leap now. You're saying my turn signals don't work, and that's a gateway to just like driving 100 miles an hour down the highway. Those two aren't anything.
You just completely convoluted what I said. Absolutely.
All right.
Comparison did not exist.
You said if those things were happening, that basically the next thing you know, the people would be more apt to speed, right? Is that what you said?
Yes, I am.
But that's the same thing.
Well, it's not.
All right. I think it leads to lawlessness, but there's lawlessness all over.
It's a gateway drug.
That's what I was going to say.
It's a gateway drug.
Ray Hartmann, former Governor Eric Greitens, according to one organization.
Disgraced former governor.
Former Governor Eric Greitens apparently has misused campaign money. He's used state money for his federal campaign to run for U.S. Senate. That's against the rules. You think it's going to hurt him when he runs that primary next year?
It will help him in the primary. He already used it. He's already messing. He's probably fundraising off of it. I bet he's a fundraiser. He came out, his response to being found again. Keep in mind, he paid one of the highest civil penalties for nonsense involving his campaign ever in the state of Missouri. Everybody said, oh, I was exonerated. It was like almost 200 grand. They never give penalties that size. And so when he was, with his governor's campaign, and he's already on the board saying it's liberals. They're doing the same thing they did to Donald Trump. He brought Trump into the conversation. He will run on it and fundraise on it.
Well,
so the answer is it won't hurt him in his primary.
He's taking the playbook from the circuit attorney. You know that she was dinged also with campaign contribution violations, 25-page report. She was fined $63,000. It was rich with irony because she had gone after Greitens for campaign violations, and she blamed Republicans. She said Republicans were responsible.
Can you go figure that, Charles? Unbelievable.
And earlier I said,
gee,
when we were talking about
goes
Schmitt,
both directions.
I really
I'm
did
shocked.
I didn't mean Greitens. I said Greitens, but I meant Schmitt.
Gotcha.
Because like Schmitt's problems, this wall thing, you're saying like, hey, right now, who really cares about you with all these other people running for office. Like, dude, that's who stabbed you in the back. So I may have said Greitens, but both of them are they're in this parallel where, like, it's the other side. So, like, right now, your biggest problems are your side.
I think campaign finance is too complicated. I don't think anyone can understand it.
Greitens shoots first, asks questions later.
No, very well. Okay, that's all we have for this show. Don't forget, Jenny Wendt is going to be on the second half. She'll be talking about recycling. She's with the River Cities and Towns Initiative, and Alvin and Ray will be posing the questions. Let's find out what people had to say about last week's program by checking the old mailbag. I think Alvin Reid should run for county executive. Thanks for being a reasonable voice. That from Denise Devereaux, and a great provocateur last week. We also heard from @EmeryCox4 on Twitter. If people at the charter schools can do something, why can't they just do it in the public schools? Cynical me wonders if it's just to circumvent accountability. You can write us, care of Donnybrook, KETC, 3655 Olive Street, 63108. We love those emails, letters at ketc.org, and those tweets, #DonnybrookSTL. Last week I listened on the podcast, and you can too, by going to Spotify, Apple, TuneIn, and Google Play. We want to thank Joe Holleman and Christine Byers for joining us for this edition of Donnybrook. Stay tuned, because in just a moment, Alvin and Ray will be joined by Jenny Wendt. They'll be talking about recycling. Have a great week and a wonderful Halloween.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Hey, Alvin Reid, Ray Hartmann with you for Next Up. And we are joined by Jennifer Wendt, Missouri River Cities and Towns Initiative. And we're going to talk all things recycling and how to make this a better world. Welcome, Jennifer. How are you doing tonight?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
And we've got a video you want to share with us, too. Could you give us a little lead in on it?
Yeah, so I'll talk more about the initiative, the Mississippi River Plastic Pollution Initiative. That's what I'm going to talk most about tonight. But in April 2020, 2021, we had a launch event in St. Louis area for the initiative to we want to reduce plastic waste in the Mississippi River Valley. And we had it at North Riverfront Park, and Brooke, one of your reporters, came out and did a story on it. So we're going to start that off to kind of introduce the initiative.
Okay, here we go.
Every minute, a dump truck worth of plastic enters our oceans. That's a very concerning statistic, but when we hear statistics like this about water pollution, the tendency is for people to feel removed, like the problem is happening far away. The Mississippi River drains about 40% of the United States waters into the Gulf of Mexico. St. Louis is the connecting point of the Missouri River, a tributary to the Mississippi that, combined in length, ranks fourth when compared to other world rivers. So, no pressure, but St. Louis tends to stand out when considering the challenges and solutions of water pollution.
Today, we are launching the Mississippi River Plastic Pollution Initiative here in St. Louis.
Led by the Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative, St. Louis is one of 3 cities involved in the Plastic Pollution Initiative that, unlike similar projects, relies heavily on community participation.
This is truly a river-wide effort to clean up, catalog, and control all the plastic waste that is choking our waterways, choking our ecology, and having a terrible effect on our infrastructure and everything that we use this great resource for.
Sounds like a hefty responsibility to put in the hands of the average citizen, and a much bigger problem than a community cleanup event can solve. So how exactly are they planning to tackle this?
You know, cleanups have been happening for over 35 years in many cases, and, you know, people were just thinking this is how we need to manage this material.
Dr. Jenna Jamback is a professor of environmental engineering at the University of Georgia. Around 2010, she had the idea for her students to collect exact GPS coordinates of litter they found in their local environment.
If we collect data on what we're finding, then you can sort of think more and more upstream, like, why is this plastic bag here? You know, is there not infrastructure? Are there not trash cans for people to use? Or is there some sort of activity around here that produces this kind of litter more?
When smartphones became more widely available, Jenna and her team created the Marine Debris Tracker app that allows anyone to upload the data of what the litter item is and where it was found.
The litter on the ground is representative of the activities that we're doing, and one really striking example of that is the PPE that we have started wearing because of the pandemic, and especially right away a lot of the disposable masks, wipes, and gloves that were being used. Our participatory sensing network with Debris Tracker showed us that was entering the environment within a week.
Just by a show of hands, who has at least downloaded the Marine Debris Tracker app? All right. Okay, that's really great.
This cleanup event in Madison County was one of the many events that utilized the Marine Debris Tracker app as part of the Plastic Pollution Initiative. The app will create a plastic pollution map, which is publicly available for anyone to see and will ideally be used to create solutions.
It was kind of the breakthrough when we realized that we could do this by enlisting ordinary people as scientists.
Barbara Hendry is the director of the North American Office of the United Nations Environment Program, who is a leading partner of the Mississippi River Plastic Pollution Initiative.
This will be, as far as I'm aware, the first time that there has been a data map of plastic pollution along the river. We have the capability to do a brand audit to understand, are there particular kinds of plastic that are showing up more than others? And with that data, we hope then through the mayor's offices and through our citizens groups to actually do something about it. That's the point of the initiative, is to try to reduce the amount of plastic that's flowing into the Mississippi River and through the Mississippi into the Gulf and then into our oceans.
Although keeping plastic out of our waters is the obvious objective to this initiative, Jenna and the Plastic Pollution Initiative team intentionally placed a particular piece of plastic directly into the Mississippi. Equipped with a GPS tracker, this bottle tag will provide more data to support what is already being collected from the Debris Tracker app.
So in 2015, I worked to develop a model of how much plastic was entering our oceans globally. And that number at the time was 8 million metric tons. But this was an estimate and a model that we built based upon some available data. And so this tracker is going to provide real data of how far a plastic item that makes its way into the river could actually travel.
You know, we have a massive biodiversity crisis. The problem is of a huge magnitude, but actually, every individual citizen scientist who goes out can add up to a cumulative impact on the problem. So it is possible for people to change things.
Okay, I want to know what happened to that bottle.
Okay, that bottle actually ended up in Baton Rouge on the shore. A gentleman found it while he was fishing, and there was a reward on it and called it. So we knew that that bottle traveled from St. Louis to Baton Rouge and ended up on the banks in Baton Rouge.
How long did it take to make the trip?
I was afraid you were going to ask that. I'm not sure. I don't know.
It made its way.
A few weeks, probably, I think.
All right. Well, I've got my own bottle here.
Yes.
Okay. Now,
I see that.
Mr. Bottle here, what is my usual journey, but what is my best journey? Is it, unfortunately, for the most part, found on the side of the road? But if it was the best journey, where would I go, and then where would I go from there?
Well, that bottle is PET, and that PET is a plastic that's recyclable, and it's and it should be recycled. These bottles right here, the markets on PET are very high right now. And so we want that material to end up in the recycle bin so that we can get it recycled and turned into new plastic bottles.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice movie, first of all. I don't know if we've ever had a movie on Donnybrook. I think it's very cool. I mean, people are wondering why they're coming back to us. No, but the, Jennifer, with the Missouri River Cities and Towns Initiative, you had somebody from the UN on. How does this fit in now? It seems like this is a fairly unusual initiative nationally. Tell us about that.
Okay, so in Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative is an organization of mayors. So it's an association of 101 mayors along the Mississippi River. In 2018, the mayors came together and agreed that they wanted to reduce plastic waste in the Mississippi River corridor because the Mississippi River drains 40% of this country. You know, a plastic bottle in Colorado could easily travel through a storm drain to a tributary, to another tributary river, to the Mississippi River, to the Gulf, to the ocean, and that's it. So, so with the Mississippi River cities, because everything drains there, it either continues onto the ocean or it ends up on the banks in these cities. So they came up with this agreement that they wanted to reduce plastic waste. So when we started working on it, MRCTI, and this was in conjunction with the United Nations Environment Program of North America. So they partnered with MRCTI, and we really tried to determine how we would go about this. You know, it's a big task. So we reached out to industries and corporations, and a lot of them have goals to reduce their plastic waste. Packaging, you know, the single-use packaging is the main thing we're finding in our environment. But we didn't have any data. And so the United Nations Environment Program introduced us to Dr. Jenna Jambeck with the University of Georgia, and she had this app. And we said, well, how about we have people collect data so we can find out what, where, and how plastic makes its way to the river and ends up in our environment and what we can do to stop it. So that's when we reached out to 3 cities, one in the upper Mississippi, one St. Louis in the middle, and then Baton Rouge in the lower, and those mayors made a commitment to reduce plastic waste and have us come in and really work with the community to get boots on the ground, collecting data, cleaning up trash, and to see what we're finding in those cities. And that was in April 2021.
Okay, off the top of my head, you know, I'm thinking what other people think. What an overwhelming task. There's just so much. But it can be done. I mean, you feel like, you know what? With this strategy, we can take a sizable percentage of the stuff off of the banks and off of the, you know, around the river so that it doesn't end up in the river. But it's a doable task.
It is a doable task, but it's going to take everybody. And, you know, a lot of people blame the manufacturers, which I'm not leaving them out of the blame. A lot of people blame the retailers or the vendors, and a lot of people blame the citizens. But really, it's all of us. And we need to all work together to be able to do it. And there's some strategies that we're working on now that we have some data from that first round where we found out what the top items are. And those top items were cigarette butt. And people don't realize that filter is plastic, so it never goes away. A plastic bottle, foam fragments, plastic bags, food wrappers are the main 5. And then there's hard plastic fragments and many other things that come down. So, you know, looking at that list, cigarette butts are tough. And that's a tough industry to get in and talk to say, hey, do you think you could make your filters out of something else? Or hey, why don't you just quit smoking? I mean, those are things people say. Well, you know, that's a tough nut to crack. But, you know, like the plastic beverage bottle, like that, that's made of a plastic that can be used to make new plastic bottles. And a lot of the bottling companies and beverage companies want to make, they have goals. They have made commitments to increase the recycled content in their bottles. Now we need to find out with this data. I did not realize how many plastic beverage bottles were found in the environment. And to me, you know, I'm a massive recycler. To me, it just breaks my heart thinking that that material that's actually worth money is just breaking down and then, you know, damaging our environment. So that's a big one right there.
I have to say that she hails from Kirkwood, so do I, and we have a really nice recycling program.
Yes, Kirkwood does.
I'm sorry, I had to throw that.
Yes.
Of course you did. So, well, first of all, good luck appealing to the better angels of the nice people at the tobacco industry. I'm sure that'll go great.
I'm sure.
You mentioned 101 mayors. Now, that's the full range. That's even though Missouri's part of your organization's name.
Yes.
It's the 101 mayors.
Mississippi River cities
Did I
and
say?
towns.
Oh, no, okay. We're sorry.
we had
Mississippi
wrong.
River. Missouri
Yes.
said Missouri River. That's all right.
Okay.
Oh, I read that wrong. I
Yeah,
apologize.
sorry. We had it up
I
there
saw
wrong,
it,
right.
saw Missouri. I was like, yes, I know. Okay,
No,
I
okay.
apologize.
It's Mississippi.
Yeah, Mississippi River.
Well, in any case, it's 101
Yes.
cities, the full ranging.
From Bemidji, Minnesota to New Orleans.
And so
Yes.
but it's not your initiative is not good. So it was mayors that set up a not-for-profit, basically, when you said they.
You know, I'm not going to pretend I know exactly how everything came about, but I do know, you know, the cities along the Mississippi River, we have Memphis and St. Louis and St. Paul and Minneapolis, but then we have Kimmswick that has 200 people, you know, so, but there was no common voice. And St. Louis, or the Mississippi River is huge for us and internationally, our economy. Our food source, you know, agriculture is really big, our history, cultural history, there's so many important things on the Mississippi River. So that association was formed by the mayor saying, yes, okay, let's try to have one common voice for the river system.
But I mentioned that because you are a not-for-profit. Can people, this is, speaking of free ads, can people support, is it a,
Absolutely.
Like how do people go about supporting what you're doing?
MRCTI.org, and you can donate to MRCTI, definitely.
Okay.
You know, we're always looking for funds, and this particular initiative, the Mississippi River Plastic Pollution Initiative, was brought together by the United Nations Environment Program of North America. And, you know, it's not a highly funded thing because that's how it works with nonprofits. You just get a little money and there's some people in there that really want to do good and you try your hardest. But, you know, there's a lot more work to do. We're just getting started, that's for sure.
Okay. Well, as we, you know, as the river flows, as they say, it's around a lot more rural areas than it is urban areas, okay? And going back as a kid, it's kind of hard to believe, but as the first recycling things I ever heard of were in small towns. They weren't around cities. So there's this always thing like, well, people in the city recycle and nobody else is, but that's not true, is it?
No, and actually, I grew up in Springfield, Missouri, and my mom was part of the creation of the first newspaper recycling plant in Springfield. And so, and I remember crushing the cans, taking them to the recycling and returning bottles. And that's something that, you know, that bottle return, whether it's this, because, you know, a lot of states have returns on plastic bottles or glass bottles. We don't have that here in Missouri.
It's a shame, too.
Yes, and, you know, those kind of programs work. And that's how, because there's an incentive in those rural areas to recycle because you can make a few bucks, you know, and that's what we need to, I think, work towards is that incentive to get that material back to the plants, recycling plants, so that we can get it recovered and put back into bottles.
Yeah, we lived and worked in Michigan for a couple of years, and it was just amazing
Yeah.
you didn't see a plastic bottle. You didn't see a glass bottle. They were nowhere to be found.
No, and in fact, Dr. Jenna Jambeck, who was on the video, she did this initiative in India, and when they were there, they found very few plastic bottles because that material has value.
Okay.
And so people on the street, pickers can go and collect that material and take it and sell it. We don't have that type of system here, and that's one of the things that is important for me to implement, is some kind of incentive system on getting those materials recycled.
I drove across the Mississippi. It didn't look altogether blue this weekend. But in general, do you have a sense that, are we getting any better about this? I mean, you mentioned cigarette butts, which is obviously a problem. Fewer people somewhat are smoking more as time goes on. Is there any reason for, I mean, it's a great program, obviously, but is there an overall sense of optimism that we're making any progress? Because this has been going on a while.
Yes, it has been going on a while, but I've done a lot of different initiatives through the years environmentally, and I feel like this one, you know, with the United Nations Environment Program and University of Georgia and these cities that have this support. And really, I don't think this is, being environmental, a lot of times it's like, oh, it's left or right, red or blue, but I don't think that this is one of those things. It's really people want clean cities. People don't want to see the materials on the ground, and people want to recycle. I mean, whether they're black, white, red, blue, it doesn't matter. People want to, you know, do better.
So in this polarized environment of ours, if somebody said, this sounds like the Green New Deal, what's your reaction to that?
It isn't, and the reason it isn't is, you know, so there's a lot of reasons it isn't.
Okay.
But I think the one big one is, you know, for the Mississippi River mayors, there's 101 of them. They are in red and blue states and cities all up and down. I have never talked to one mayor that said, sounds like a liberal deal, or this sounds, not at all. Because everybody wants that environment. And really, it's the rural areas that, you know, the conservationists, the people that want to hunt and fish, they don't want to see those trash when they go out and about. So I think it is really, it is an initiative that we can get a lot of backing. It is one that is, I mean, it's not easy. I mean, don't get me wrong, there aren't nights when I'm like, what am I doing? But I think that, you know, I mentioned this earlier, a lot of corporations have these commitments, and particularly the American Beverage Association, Coke, Keurig Dr. Pepper, and Pepsi have this Every Bottle Back program. They started because they want more recycled content in their plastic bottles because there's a lot of consumer pressure. And so they have this initiative, and instead of trying to, you know, we have this Break Free from Plastic Act right now out. It hasn't been voted on. I don't really know a lot about how the process is working. It's a federal legislation to really try to get more deposits back, work on the plastic bag issue, extended producer responsibility. And what that is, you know, if you're going to make a plastic bottle, you need to figure out where that plastic bottle is going to end up when you make it. And that's something that is in Europe, you know, and it's in different countries. We don't have it here. The state of Maine just recently passed that, but that is a regulation. That's a piece of regulation.
That's in front of Congress now?
It is somewhere, and you would know better than I do because I'm not going to pretend that I understand
if
where
it's in front of Congress, I mean, you may know that they are at each other's throats constantly, and that's just the Democrats.
Okay. There's hope. Okay.
Yes, but
right. No, go ahead.
Okay, what I would like to see though is not policy or regulations. I'd like to start with working with the beverage because those beverage companies, they want to add more recycled content. We just need to find a way to get that to them, to incentivize the materials to get to the right place so that we can reduce our use. Because really it comes down to reducing our use.
All right, so, you know, we get two trucks come and one empties the green receptacle, which is recycling, and then the black one is like garbage. I've never followed either truck to where it goes. Naysayers around the good Kirkwood area and throughout probably the world say it all goes to the same place, Alvin, the landfill.
Right.
Please tell me that's
okay,
not true.
that is not true.
All
And
right.
I'll tell you why, because I worked for the city of University City for a good chunk of time, and with the sanitation division. Look, no city is going to run 2 routes and have 2 sets of staff and go around with that type. It is a huge cost just to take it to the same place as the trash. It just, I mean, oh, they're, you know, like they're going to snow all their citizens. Just let's spend an extra $5 million just to pretend we're recycling.
That's how I
not
know.
really what.
That's how I know Ben walked on the moon. Because I said, like, okay, 600,000 people kept a secret. Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, good for you. As somebody who lived 2 decades in New City, I'm glad to hear that because
Yes.
we did separate things.
Yes.
And you got that great recycler, former employer, had a great recycling center that not everybody has. Okay, I got to be a troublemaker because you said, when you said reduce plastic consumption, there are people, and I believe one of the, if I'm not mistaken, one of the industries that makes a lot of money on making a lot of plastic is the petroleum industry, the oil industry. And so do you get some, and I know you're so great at, I love the fact it's about consensus and bringing us together, which really is something we need in a lot of ways, certainly in preserving the environment. But do you get, are people like the oil industry, are they helpful in this?
I haven't spoken to anybody at the petroleum industry. You know, they, of course, they're about profit, and the plastics make, at last I heard, and everybody can check this, but about 20% of their revenue comes from plastics.
Really?
A lot
That
of that
much? I knew
is
they did.
single-use plastic. So it is a great revenue stream for somebody to use something one time, throw it away, buy another one, throw it away, buy, you know, so yeah, yes.
Okay.
That's tough. That's a really tough nut
Sorry,
to crack.
I didn't know cigarette filters were mostly
Plastic.
plastic. I didn't know that. I thought they were paper. I thought they, sooner or later, they would disappear.
Right. It seems like that. I think a lot of people think that.
All right. Well, okay, there's one thing.
Right.
To at least get that word out there, because I didn't know that. I'm
Yes.
considered to be a fairly intelligent person, but I
Right.
had no idea. But I've never smoked either.
There you go.
So, all right, now if I want to help out, get out on the bank, put some gloves on, pick up bottles, and do all that. Do you, do you announce where those are going to be on that website, or how do you go about
Well, so what we've been doing is working with different organizations like stream teams, Missouri Department of Conservation stream teams, River to Pear, the River to Pear cleanup, that is maybe going on right now, I'm not sure. The Confluence Trash Bash, MSD has a lot of cleanups, Open Space Council, there's Earth Day 365. So what we were doing really is we're not trying to focus as much on cleanups as, because a lot of organizations do that. We're trying to focus on the reduction, prevention, and the capture before it gets to the river and to the environment. So for you to help, for individuals to help, is, stop using single-use plastic.
All right.
Which we all do. I mean, I definitely have grabbed a plastic fork and, but a lot of times we don't have very many options. And that is something that we need to work with those retailers and vendors. I was on a road trip and my daughter was really thirsty. We were driving home, we had our water bottles, they were empty. We went into a convenience store, there was nowhere to fill that water bottle. All you could do is buy a plastic. Why? Why, when you have the soda machine, that isn't that little button that says, well, things like that they're easy. Plastic bags, there's too many, right? I mean, the reusable plastic bags. And by the way, in the state of Missouri, we have a ban on any plastic bag ban or any plastic bag fee for the state of Missouri. So we couldn't do that even if we wanted to as any community. A store could do it, but Target's not going to do it if Schnucks isn't going to do it and Walmart's not going to, so it's comes back to the same circle. But for you individually, the Missouri Department of Conservation stream teams, they always have cleanups, and there are some great folks on there that can really work with that. But individually, we do need data. We need to know what brands of data. We collected a lot of information on the types, but we want to know the brands. For example, if there's a styrofoam cup, is it from, where's it from? And we can find out how that's making its way to the environment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer Wendt, Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative. And if I see a bottle floating down the river with an antenna on it, leave it alone,
Yes,
right? Leave it
don't
alone.
pick up the
Thank you
big-
so much.
Jennifer.
And we'll
Thank
see
you.
you guys next week on Donnybrook and Donnybrook Next Up.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS. Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.